Awakening among stars. The quantum sensors aboard the Vildari research vessel Distant Harmony detected the anomaly first, a signal that didn't belong among the familiar cosmic background radiation. Commander Zaxreln, his crystalline exoskeleton glinting under the soft blue lights of the bridge, leaned forward to study the readings. "Analysis?" he asked, his four primary eyes narrowing. Science Officer Telavos manipulated the control interface with her tendrils, her usually placid features showing rare excitement. "The signal follows no known pattern in our databases, Commander. It's structured, deliberate, and ancient. Dating estimates suggest it's been transmitting for nearly 500,000 standard cycles." The bridge fell silent. 500,000 cycles ago, the Vildari were barely sentient, still evolving in the methane oceans of their homeworld. "Origin?" Zaxreln demanded. "The Forbidden Zone, sir." Every crew member tensed. The Forbidden Zone, an unremarkable yellow star system at the edge of Vildari space, quarantined by ancient decree. The historical records were fragmentary at best, but they all mentioned the same thing: the primitives who once inhabited the third planet. Humans, they had called themselves, a species that had achieved rudimentary spaceflight before destroying their homeworld in a cataclysmic resource war. The last humans had flown in primitive generation ships, most of which had failed before reaching their destinations. The rest had faded into obscurity, their genetic lineage eventually diluted beyond recognition. Or so the histories claimed. "Set course for the signal's origin," Zaxreln ordered, ignoring the shocked expressions of his crew, "and inform High Command of our trajectory." 3 standard days later, the Distant Harmony dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Forbidden Zone. The yellow star burned in the distance, a lone sentinel guarding its brood of lifeless planets. "Signal source identified," Telavos announced. "It's coming from what appears to be a derelict vessel in high orbit around the third planet." The view screen magnified to show a massive structure, clearly artificial, but unlike any ship design in their records. Its hull was composed of interlocking hexagonal plates that seemed to shift subtly when not observed directly. No visible propulsion systems, no weapon ports, no communication arrays. Just smooth, dark metal that absorbed rather than reflected light. "A human vessel?" Zaxreln asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Unknown, sir, but it predates any known Vildari space exploration by at least 400,000 cycles." "Hail them," the commander ordered. "No response on any frequency," Communications Officer Velnar reported. "But the signal pattern has changed. It's adapting." Before Zaxreln could respond, every display on the bridge flickered. The lighting dimmed momentarily before returning to normal. When the displays reactivated, they showed a single message in perfect Vildari script. "A puro chich and VWEL so amid CHILDUREN of VILOS prime. How do they know our homeworld?" Velnar whispered, his exoskeleton paling. Zaxreln straightened to his full height. "Take us in. Maintain defensive posture, but power down weapons." As the Distant Harmony moved closer, the massive vessel stirred like a creature awakening from hibernation. The hexagonal plates shifted and realigned, creating an opening large enough to accommodate the Vildari ship. "It's inviting us inside," Telavos said, her scientific curiosity overcoming her apprehension. "Proceed," Zaxreln commanded, his voice steady despite his thundering heartbeats. The interior of the vessel defied conventional understanding of space. Corridors seemed to extend further than the external dimensions of the ship should allow. Gravity shifted subtly, always comfortable, but never quite following expected patterns. And everywhere, there was a sense of calm watchfulness, as if the ship itself were studying its visitors. "Sir," Telavos said, her voice trembling slightly as she studied her instruments. "According to these readings, this vessel is alive." "Impossible," Zaxreln began, but fell silent as a figure materialized before them. It appeared humanoid, though its form was composed of swirling motes of light that shifted constantly, suggesting rather than defining a physical body. When it spoke, its voice resonated from everywhere at once, communicating directly in their minds. "Welcome, Vildari. We have waited a long time for an advanced species to answer our call." Zaxrelm stepped forward, mandibles clicking nervously, despite his best efforts. "I am Commander Zaxrelm of the Vildari Collective. Identify yourself." The being's form coalesced slightly, becoming more defined. A bipedal shape with 2 arms, a head with features suggesting eyes and a mouth. "I am Guardian, the last human caretaker of the Ark." "Human?" Telavos exclaimed. "Impossible. Humans went extinct 500,000 cycles ago." The being's light form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Is that what your histories say? How fascinating." "No, Science Officer Telavos, humanity did not go extinct. We simply evolved beyond recognition." "How do you know my designation?" Telavos demanded. "We have been watching, learning, waiting." Guardian gestured, and the space around them transformed into a vast chamber filled with swirling representations of galactic star systems. When our homeworld began to fail, humanity split into 2 factions. Those who sought new worlds among the stars, clinging to their biological forms, and those who chose a different path. The display zoomed in on a representation of ancient Earth, showing massive structures built deep within the planet's crust. We'd merged our consciousness with our technology, transcending biological limitations. While our cousins fled outward in their primitive vessels, we turned inward, becoming entities of pure information and energy. When Earth finally died, we had already evolved beyond the need for a homeworld. Zaxrelm's analytical mind raced to process the implications. "You've been hiding among the stars for 500,000 cycles. Why reveal yourselves now?" Guardian's form darkened slightly. "Because the galaxy faces extinction. We have detected a threat approaching from the void between galaxies, a cosmic predator that consumes civilizations. Without intervention, all advanced life will be extinguished within 300 cycles." The chamber shifted again, showing a vast darkness moving between the stars, extinguishing their light one by one. "This is why we seeded the beacon, to find worthy allies. The Vildari have shown remarkable potential, developing technologies and philosophies that complement our own. Together, we might stand against the coming darkness." Zaxrelm studied the being carefully. "If you possess such advanced technology, why not face this threat yourselves?" "Because we have evolved too far from physical existence. We can create, observe, analyze, but direct intervention requires bodies, ships, physical weapons. We need allies who still possess a connection to the physical realm." The implications were staggering. An alliance with beings of such advanced technology could propel the Vildari Collective centuries ahead of their development curve. But the political ramifications would be equally enormous. "I must consult with my superiors," Zaxrelm said carefully. "Of course," Guardian replied. "But know this, the threat approaches more rapidly than expected. While you deliberate, they draw closer. We have calculated 14 potentially viable defensive strategies. All require cooperation between multiple species, with the Vildari as a linchpin due to your unique neural architecture." Before Zaxrelm could respond, the ship's emergency alert blared. Velnar's voice came through the communication system. "Commander, High Command has dispatched a battle fleet to our location. They're demanding we withdraw immediately." Guardian's form pulsed. "Your leaders fear what they do not understand." Predictable, but unfortunate. The displays showed 5 Vildari warships dropping out of hyperspace, weapons systems active. "They will destroy this vessel rather than risk unknown technology falling into rival hands," Guardian observed calmly. "Such is the pattern of emerging civilizations." Zaxrelm faced an impossible choice: obey orders and potentially lose humanity's knowledge forever, or defy his people and risk everything on the word of a being he barely understood. "Can you prove what you claim about this cosmic threat?" he demanded. In response, the entire chamber transformed into a perfect replica of the Vildari High Council chambers, a location no outsider had ever seen. Within it stood perfect representations of the 7 High Counselors, discussing the distant Harmony's mission. We have observed every advanced civilization in this galaxy for millennia, Guardian explained. We know the Vildari better than they know themselves. The war between your people and the Krezet Dominion 18 cycles ago. It was orchestrated by the approaching entity, testing your defenses and responses. Zack's realm felt his exoskeleton grow cold. That information was classified at the highest levels. Commander, Guardian continued, in approximately 40 seconds, your vessel will receive new orders. Shoot to disable this ship, then board and secure any technology. You are being sacrificed for political expediency. As if on cue, Velnar's voice came through again. Sir, new orders from Fleet Commander Dozmek. We're to disable the alien vessel for boarding and recovery. Zack's realm's 4 hearts pounded in their separate chambers. Everything within him screamed to obey orders, to follow the chain of command that had defined his entire existence. But something deeper, an instinct he couldn't name, pulled him in another direction. Officer Velnar, he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within, inform Fleet Commander Dozmek that we are experiencing communication difficulties and require clarification. He turned to Guardian. If what you say is true, prove it. Show us this cosmic threat directly. Guardian's form brightened. I can do better than that, Commander Zack's realm. I can take you there. Before anyone could respond, the entire ship shuddered. Outside, the Vildari battle fleet opened fire, energy weapons impacting harmlessly against the ancient vessel's hull. The hexagonal plates began to shift and rotate, faster and faster. What are you doing? Zack's realm demanded. Taking decisive action, Guardian replied. Sometimes seeing is the only path to believing. A wave of darkness washed over the distant Harmony as the human vessel activated technologies beyond Vildari comprehension. When light returned, they were somewhere else entirely, at the very edge of the galaxy, looking out into the intergalactic void. And there, moving through the darkness between stars, was something that defied description, a vast, consuming emptiness that devoured light itself. We call it the Abyssal Tide, Guardian explained. It has consumed 4 galaxies before ours. It will reach populated systems within 60 cycles. Zack's realm watched in horror as the entity consumed a distant star, leaving nothing but darkness in its wake. In that moment, he knew his path forward, a path that would either save his civilization or mark him as its greatest traitor. What do you need from us? He asked simply. Everything, Guardian replied. And in return, we offer the same. The Forge of Stars. The Vildari High Council chamber erupted into chaos as the holographic recording concluded. The 7 High Counselors, their crystalline exoskeletons reflecting the chamber's light in sharp, agitated patterns, spoke over one another in a cacophony of clicks and whistles. Silence. First Counselor Zevrath commanded, his primary eyes narrowed to slits. Commander Zack's realm, you stand accused of high treason against the collective. You have consorted with an unknown entity, compromised classified information, and abducted a research vessel with its full crew. What say you in your defense? Zack's realm stood tall in the center of the chamber, flanked by Guardian's luminescent form and Telavos. The rest of his crew remained aboard the distant Harmony, now held in a containment field above the Vildari homeworld. I say that extinction stands at our door, counselors. I say that without the humans' help, the Vildari collective, indeed, all advanced life in our galaxy, faces annihilation within 60 cycles. Zevrath's mandibles clicked dismissively, based on the word of this construct. This alleged human whose species has been extinct for 500,000 cycles. Guardian's form brightened. Your skepticism is understandable, First Counselor. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than words. Before any could object, Guardian gestured, and the chamber's environmental systems, supposedly isolated from all networks, activated simultaneously. The temperature, lighting, and atmospheric composition shifted to optimal Vildari comfort levels. Security barriers that should have been impenetrable fell away. Your most sophisticated technology is rudimentary to us, Guardian explained calmly. We have evolved beyond physical constraints, becoming beings of pure information and energy. We could have taken control of your civilization at any point in the last 300,000 cycles. Instead, we watched and waited for you to mature enough to become allies rather than subjects. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were clear. If these beings meant harm, they could have inflicted it long ago. Science counselor Mevlorn leaned forward, her analytical mind already processing the possibilities. If what you claim about this abyssal tide is true, what defense do you propose? Even our most advanced weapons would be useless against an entity that consumes stars. Not weapons, Guardian replied. A shield, a galactic shield. But its creation requires resources and coordination beyond what any single species can provide. The displays around the chamber activated, showing a vast network of interconnected devices positioned at strategic points throughout the galaxy. The Stellar Forge, Guardian explained, a network of quantum-entangled cosmic repulsors that, when activated simultaneously, will create an energy barrier around the galaxy's primary arm. The Vildari's crystalline technology provides the perfect transmission medium for the repulsion field. And what do you gain from this alliance? War Counselor Drescor demanded, his battle-scarred exoskeleton shifting restlessly. Guardian's form seemed to smile. Continuation. Though we transcended our biological origins, we remain conscious beings who value existence, and perhaps redemption. It was human short-sightedness that nearly destroyed Earth. We would not see the same fate befall the galaxy we have silently watched over for eons. The debate raged for days. Other species were contacted, evidence examined, simulations run. In the end, faced with irrefutable proof of the approaching threat, the Vildari High Council voted unanimously to form an alliance with humanity's evolved descendants. Construction of the Stellar Forge began immediately. 17 spacefaring civilizations contributed resources and technology under humanity's guidance. What would have taken centuries was compressed into decades through the application of technologies long hidden among the stars. Zaxrelm, exonerated and promoted to Fleet Admiral, coordinated the defense forces that would protect the Forge installations until they became operational. Telavos led the scientific teams integrating Vildari crystalline technology with human quantum systems. But the abyssal tide moved faster than anticipated. 53 cycles after first contact, while the Forge network was only 70% complete, the entity reached the outer systems of the galaxy. The first inhabited world to fall was Kresit Prime, homeworld of the Vildari's oldest rivals. 6 billion sentients vanished in less than a day, their star collapsing into absolute darkness. The ripples of terror spread throughout the galaxy as the unstoppable force continued its advance. We need more time, Telavos reported grimly during the emergency council session. The network requires at least 85% completion to create even a partial barrier. Guardian's form, now a constant presence in Vildari High Command, pulsed thoughtfully. There is one possibility. If we could redirect the entity's path, channel it along the galactic rim rather than through the primary arm. How? Admiral Zaxrelm demanded. A sacrifice, Guardian replied solemnly. A concentration of energy so potent it would appear more appetizing than scattered star systems. It would require a star cluster. The implication hung heavy in the chamber. The only suitable star cluster within range was Vilas Nursery, birthplace of the Vildari civilization, and home to over 30 billion citizens across 7 worlds. Impossible, First Counselor Zevrath declared. We cannot sacrifice our ancestral homes. The alternative is extinction, Guardian countered. Not just for the Vildari, but for all life in the galaxy. Admiral Zaxrelm studied the tactical displays, his four hearts heavy with the weight of what he was considering. If we evacuate the nursery systems, how many could we save? Perhaps 60%, given our current fleet capacity, War Counselor Dreskor calculated. But the cultural loss would be incalculable. Guardian's form brightened suddenly. There may be another way. Not to save the star cluster, but to use its loss as more than a temporary diversion. The plan Guardian proposed was audacious to the point of madness. It required precise timing, perfect coordination between species that had been enemies for millennia, and technology pushed far beyond its designed limits. But facing extinction, even madness seemed reasonable. 3 months later, as the abyssal tide approached the Vilus nursery, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history took position. Ships from 17 species, commanded by Admiral Zaxrelm from the Harmony Ascendant, maintained formation around the star cluster. The evacuation was still underway, billions of Vildari citizens streaming toward safety in the inner systems. At the heart of the star cluster, human engineers had reconfigured the partially complete forge network into something new, a cosmic trap. The entity approaches detection range, Tel Avaz reported from her station. Stellar compression charges armed and ready. Zaxrelm felt the weight of history upon him. Begin the sequence. Throughout the star cluster, specialized devices activated simultaneously, compressing the star's fusion reactions to critical levels. The stars began to pulse in perfect synchronization, creating a quantum resonance pattern that mirrored the abyssal tide's own energy signature. It's working, Guardian confirmed, the being's form now integrated directly with the ship's systems. The entity is altering course, drawn to the resonance pattern. They watched as the vast darkness changed direction, accelerating toward the vulnerable star cluster. The remaining evacuation ships fled at maximum speed, many still dangerously within the projected impact zone. All ships maintained position, Zaxrelm ordered, ignoring the tremor in his voice. Prepare for Phase 2 on my mark. The abyssal tide reached the outermost star of the cluster and engulfed it completely. The star didn't merely dim, it ceased to exist, consumed utterly by the cosmic predator. The entity accelerated, hungry for the feast before it. Now, Zaxrelm commanded. Across the star cluster, the modified forge devices activated. Instead of creating a repulsion field, they generated its opposite, a quantum attraction field that locked onto the abyssal tide's unique energy signature. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The entity, drawn irresistibly toward the center of the cluster, found itself unable to escape as the stars around it detonated in a carefully orchestrated sequence. Matter and antimatter collided in precisely calculated patterns, creating a cascading reaction that tore through subspace. All ships, emergency withdrawal, Zaxrelm ordered as the fabric of space itself began to warp around them. The combined fleet accelerated to maximum speed, racing against the expanding shockwave. Behind them, the Vilus nursery transformed into something new. A spatial anomaly unlike anything seen before. The abyssal tide, trapped within the collapsing pocket of reality, found itself being compressed into a singularity. Guardian, Zaxrelm called as the Harmony Ascendant strained to outrun the destruction. Will this destroy the entity? Guardian's form flickered as it channeled vast amounts of energy into the ship's engines. Not destroy. Contain. The singularity will become a prison outside normal spacetime. The entity cannot be destroyed by conventional means, but it can be removed from our reality. As the fleet reached safe distance, they watched the final collapse of the Vilus nursery. Where 7 planets and 12 stars had once existed, there now pulsed a single point of brilliant light, a quantum singularity anchored in place by the modified forge network. The containment is stable, Tel Avaz reported, her voice filled with wonder and grief. The entity is gone. The cost had been devastating. Billions of lives lost, an ancestral home destroyed, 17 civilizations pushed to their technological and economic limits, but the galaxy had been saved. In the cycles that followed, The alliance forged in crisis solidified into something more permanent. The completed stellar forge network became not a weapon, but the foundation of a new interstellar civilization, one where humanity's evolved consciousness worked in harmony with physical species like the Vildari. On the anniversary of the Battle of Vilas Nursery, Admiral Zaxrelm stood with Guardian on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Concord station. The quantum singularity that had once been his ancestral home glowed in the distance, now surrounded by a memorial sphere inscribed with the names of those who had not escaped. Was it worth it? Zaxrelm asked quietly, a question he had carried for 7 cycles. Guardian's form, more defined than it had been during their first meeting, seemed contemplative. That is a question only you can answer, Admiral. Humanity asked itself the same when Earth died. We still seek our answer among the stars. Zaxrelm considered the vast Alliance fleet assembled for the commemoration ceremony, ships of designs that would have been impossible before the sharing of human technology. Representatives from 34 species now populated the Concord, many of whom had been bitter enemies before the crisis united them. Yes, he finally said. It was worth it. Not the loss. Never that. But what we built from it. What we became because of it. Guardian's form brightened in what Zaxrelm had come to recognize as agreement. That, Admiral, is what has always defined the best of humanity. And now, perhaps, the best of all sentient life. Not the absence of failure or loss, but what we create from the ashes. Together, they watched as a new star ignited in the distance, the first successfully created through the stellar forge technology. Born from the combined knowledge of 17 civilizations, guided by humanity's ancient wisdom. A new beginning, forged in the crucible of near extinction. A legacy worthy of those who came before. A future limited only by imagination.